For the last 5 years, superhero media has been on a steady decline. Over these last few years, we've had nothing but studios trying to squeeze every bit of nostalgia out of us for money. This, of course, has caused a monumental shift in public perception for superhero media. And that's exactly why I'm talking about X-Men 97 today. Have you noticed that for the past 5 years, a lot of superhero movies hold your hand throughout the story? They tell you who's bad, why he's bad, who's good, why they're good. There's no room for interpretation in these stories. Take Madam Web, for example, a movie that is horrendously written and showcases why the bad guy is bad from the get-go. Oh, he's bad because he kills people, and he's bad because he wants a spider that's gonna make him invincible. He must be a pretty bad guy. And all of his dialogue is bad. And I'm not talking about vocally bad. I mean, it is. It's no vocal range.
Where's my spider? They took my spider.
I mean, like, all he says is stereotypical villain. Unfortunately, writing like this has been a trend in a lot of superhero projects, especially those that are female-led. In an attempt to make the new characters stand alongside their pre-existing cast members, the writers rush necessary character development, ultimately leaving the character feeling hollow, or their status wasn't gained, or their power wasn't earned. A good example of this comes from She-Hulk. When Jennifer Walters is learning to control her power, we see her do so over the course of one episode, about 30 minutes. Meanwhile, we've been watching Bruce Banner struggle with this for the past decade. And of course audiences aren't going to feel like she earned that ability. And I feel like they just threw away the character development and struggle that she could have gone through to make a relatable and funny line to try to appeal to audiences. Now, you might be asking yourself, why is this happening and how the hell does any of this relate to X-Men 97? Well, as for why this is happening, look no further than the recent writer's strike. Allegedly, these huge studios would not only understaff and underpay their writer's room, they would hire inexperienced writers because they would be cheaper. Of course, all of these cutbacks and hiring inexperienced writers and making sure the staff doesn't get paid what they're supposed to get paid is going to result in these lackluster cookie-cutter stories that we've seen a million times. None of these characters have depth, none of them grow, none of them develop. If that doesn't show you how much these studios care, nothing will. That's exactly how we end up with movies like Madam Web, The Eternals, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. X-Men 97, on the other hand, doesn't have any of these issues. And you might think to yourself, well, that's because it's animated. It's easier to do, it's easier to write, they have more time, more preparing, they can do anything they want. I argue, go watch What If Season 2 and see if it has the same quality as the first season of X-Men 97. And that's purely because X-Men 97 handles all of its characters extraordinarily well. A current trend in a lot of media, not just superhero media, is telling the audience what is happening rather than showing them. And that can create a huge divide between the story and the audience. And it breaks that suspension of disbelief. Let's talk deeper about what I mean when I say the writers handle the characters in X-Men 97 extremely well. To do that, we're going to take a look back on that She-Hulk scene I mentioned earlier, where she's learning to control her powers, and compare it to when Storm regains her powers in X-Men 97. One deals with the inner struggle of your sense of self, trying to be what you think others want you to be, convincing yourself that's what you want too, only to rise up and embrace your faults and accept yourself for who you are, while the other is just a throwaway line to make the character more relatable to a general audience. Now, I want to state very clearly, my issue with this scene is not that she's a woman, and definitely not the comment. I think those are both fine. I don't have any issues with female-led projects. I love those, and I wish there would be more of them. My issue comes whenever these female-led projects are poorly written for the sake of convenience. Instead of giving these female characters amazing journeys and hardships like we do the male characters, we just give them the power so they can stand amongst the male cast. That's not fair to them. That's not fair to the audience. That's not fair to anybody. These characters should be put through the same amount of struggle and discourse that the male characters are put through. And that's exactly what X-Men 97 does. Storm doesn't just get her powers back. It's a huge issue and journey that she goes through, learning to deal with herself and what she is and what she means to the world. It is very thought-provoking, and it is extraordinarily humbling and amazing to watch. She-Hulk doesn't hit those marks. And obviously, The tone of the two are very different. Even if the tones are different, the character can still go through a journey. Look at Deadpool. Deadpool is not a serious movie, and yet Wade Wilson is put through the fucking ringer every time. He has tragedy. He goes through a character's arc and journey. If we take a look at Madeline Pryor from X-Men 97, when we were still under the assumption that she was Jean Grey, we all saw her break free from this mental curse or mental prison that was set in her mind, thinking, oh my God, Jean Grey just did that. We had no idea it was Madeline Pryor. So whenever she becomes evil and succumbs to Sinister's psychic attack, when she breaks free from it, we've already seen her do that once before. It makes sense to us as the audience. What the writers essentially do is they build a foundation for these characters to stand on, where I feel like the MCU shows don't do that. They just throw these characters into the universe and try to make them work. I mean, it was even reported that for She-Hulk, they didn't get writers who understood lawyer shows or how to write a lawyer show. That is a problem when attorney at law is in the name. Another good example is the Star Wars show Obi-Wan Kenobi. They had no idea how to handle these characters. The writers themselves said most of them hadn't even watched a Star Wars property or project. I don't understand this fascination with getting people who have never touched a property, don't have any interest in the property, or even like the property to write something for it. If I wanted a cheesecake, right? Stay with me right now. If I wanted a cheesecake, I would not go to a corporate office with the ingredients, put them in front of someone who has never baked in their life, and say, here, make this, but you don't get the recipe and you don't know how to do it. What are we doing? Of course we're gonna get projects that are bad. Of course we're gonna get projects that don't make any sense, that have no character development. That's why this show is so important, because they do all of that. They have writers who care. It's everywhere in the show. When a writer cares about a character or a property, you can feel it through the episodes, through the lines, through the dialogue. You can feel it. And then when you look at these other shows, you can tell when they're just a simple cash grab and nothing else. And movies and shows like this one are so important because they have something to say. In X-Men 97's case, I believe it's even if you're different, even if you feel like there's nowhere for you to go, even if you are helpless or you feel hopeless, there is hope. Never give up hope. And that's what makes Marvel so special. That's what it's always made it so special. Yes, it's big, stupid CGI fights, and yes, it's stupid people in stupid costumes doing stupid things on the big screen. But at the fundamentals, at the core of these movies and at the core of the comic books, they give people something to believe in, whether that be themselves, something greater. They give people a hope that it will be okay, that you can be your own hero. You can be the change that you want to see in the world. And that's why these are such important projects. In conclusion, X-Men 97 was one of the best shows I've ever watched, period. Future projects should take a note from X-Men 97's book. I want these movies to mean something, whether that be to the director, the cast, the producers, I don't care. I just don't want it to feel so corporatized anymore. I don't want these cookie cutter stories. I don't want this bland slop that we've been getting. And I think it's important to support shows like this, so that's what we continue to get, is these well-written, well-developed characters in a very amazingly structured world. Hopefully all this made sense. I went off my script a lot here. I don't remember a whole lot of what I said. I know I rambled a lot, but first off, I want to give you guys a big thank you for watching. I really appreciate the support. I'm gonna try and make more videos like this one going forward. I wanna get back into doing this. I miss doing this. If you guys have any opinions or comments on X-Men 97, let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear about it. Anyways, guys, that's all from me. I appreciate the watch. I'll see you next time.